Oh.
Yeah, welcome to the Big 5-0. This is episode 50, Mike. Wait, where's my crowd? Crowd yelling. Where is it? That's not it.
That sounds like something like that,
yeah, that was oh wait, here's clapping. 50 episodes.
You're listening to, and this is why I love comics.
Andy and Mike. This is why I love comics.
Barely. Yeah, welcome to another episode of And This Is Why I Love Comics. I'm Andy.
Yeah, Mike.
And it's 50th episode time. Yay. I know we said that before, but I just wanted to do it official. And if you would like to join us on the 50th celebration, please let us know what you want to talk about. And I'll put it in the notes or something, or we'll talk about it next episode, 51. This is officially season 3. I think season 3 started really last episode with our popular episode with Jamie from J Hood Comics. I'll put the link in the description again, but thanks again to Jamie last episode. Getting a lot of good comments on that. That he was very knowledgeable and people liked it and downloaded it. He got some smarts on the podcast. I mean,
it's always a little nervous whenever you bring somebody on. It's like, are they going to outshine us? Are we going to get replaced by co-hosts that come through? And
well, clearly we did this time.
Yeah. Yep. That definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, in the classic commercial, that was the last time Timmy was invited into Billy's room.
Yay! 50th episode, season 3. I'm very glad we got this far. That was kind of one of my goals. So after this episode, we're not going to record anymore. And
hit it. Leave them when they're wanting more, right?
That's right. This was as far as I wanted to go. And no, just kidding. We're going to go on until, I don't know, whenever we want.
And they stop making comics to review, and we'll stop making the podcast.
Till podcasts go out of style. And we'll still be doing them, but
Yeah, well, just be for us.
Right, yeah. True. We have producer Tony working on our March Madness Artist Edition. Hopefully he'll have that soon, and we'll start doing brackets and figuring stuff out and who we want to include. I think I want Matt 10.0 and Kevin and Jamie and you and me, and I don't know, maybe we'll do an even number, so we'll need one other producer, Tony. Yeah, and then we'll all pick our brackets and who we would do it, and I haven't figured out all the rules yet, but it'll be fun.
Yep, we got a little time.
Yeah, we got a little time. That's why I want to start working on it now. And by that, I mean producer Tony, and see what we can get accomplished. It is September. School started for my little kids. Yeah. And
my older kids.
And older kids, yeah. And you have college people now?
Yeah, I already spent, this is week 2 living on campus.
Ooh, how is that going?
Yeah, it's a little
that you
weird.
can say, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think that what it really boils down to is there is an absence in the house. Yeah. And to her, she's probably living it up. She's probably like, this is great. Finally, exactly what I wanted. But for the rest of us, it's like, huh. Yeah, now there's just a void in the home.
Yeah.
And that's the toughest part to get used to, is just like, man, there was somebody that was always here and now not always here.
Yeah. I feel that pain too. My oldest, he graduated and there's an absence in the house. Getting old, it's got its perks, but, it also sucks.
Yeah. And it's, the progression of life, but, like I said, they love it. We just are contending with it. But the whole point is you get them to this point so they can do that.
Right. And our parents did that before, we're doing it. And they probably, speaking for my parents, they're probably very happy when I left the house. But, times have changed. I don't know that for a fact.
Yeah, I kind of wondered about that too, because you were the baby of the family.
Yeah,
if I'm telling tales here, you're the baby of the family. I was kid number 3, and there's still
4.
one more.
Yeah,
and and that one that was still, there was still a few years off. And even more so because, it can't. He went for his doctorate, so. But he had obviously moved on and moved out to get his doctorate, so he was already out of the house.
Yeah. I came from an unusual situation. It was a, blended family thing. And so I was both the firstborn of my father and the lastborn of the house, Yeah. So I picked up traits, I think, from both aspects of it. So I wasn't just the baby. I was solo Italiano as well, which, doesn't really mean anything. I was pretty much the baby. I'm just trying to boost myself up by saying I was also the firstborn. But not really.
Carried the name.
That's right. That is right. So today,
Palorino,
Mr. Murphy. This morning, I took kids to school as normal. This morning is one of those infrequent days where I also have to take my second born to his high school in Lowell, Michigan. And, it's a 25 minute drive. So we get up extra early, everybody, and all the kids that I take to school and me, and my wife gets, the unfortunate aspect of having to go to work. So she can't join us on that trip, but so I drive second born, and all the other kids kind of tag along because I got to drop them off afterwards. So take my second born to Lowell and drop him off, and then we stopped and got donuts. Don't tell my second born that, but we stop and get donuts at a donut place on the way back to Grand Rapids, where I have to drop the other 3 off. Luckily, they go to the same school. And I dropped them off. My daughter, who just started Young Fives, my youngest child, has already decided she doesn't like school and didn't want to get out of the van. But, eventually she did. And so I head back to my home, and then I stopped to get some breakfast for the wife and I. And I pull into McDonald's, and suddenly I hear the rim of my tire hitting pavement. And I'm like, oh, what just happened? So I pull over after I get breakfast, of course. And I pull over. And yeah, a back tire had blown. And I was stuck at McDonald's And I'm very fortunate that it didn't happen while we were traveling out to anywhere else. So, I mean, my kids were safe and they were in school. So I'm don't get me wrong, I'm very lucky that happened, and not on the highway or something like that. Like I was 5 minutes from home, and it happened. So that's very good. So I waited for a tow truck and they towed it down the street and I got a new tire. All thanks to my insurance, roadside assistance. Now that I'm 52, I'm going to use that perk if I have it, because, I'm not changing the tire if I have to, especially because it was raining. So, I've changed a few tires in my life. I've done that. I'm not saying I haven't. So, but I don't know. I just wasn't going to happen. So that made it a very tense morning. You ever have those tense mornings that just throws all your other plans to whack because now you have to get a new tire, and by then it's noon, and all your day plans have now moved to the afternoon, and then you got to pick your kids back up at 2:30, 3 o'clock, and it's like, nothing's going right, Ricky.
Yeah. Everything you were hoping to get accomplished.
Yes. But
best
again,
plans.
Everyone was safe, so I'm thankful for that. So that's how my day went. How was your day today?
Yeah, it wasn't really that bad. I mean, by comparison, by a long stretch, the whole week has been kind of like, okay, like last week, the luxury of Labor Day kicked in. And so the work week wasn't that long. This week, it's like, well, it's official. We're all plugging away. Or wait, actually, this was the week of Labor Day, wasn't it?
Right? Yeah.
Oh man,
wasn't that long ago?
Yeah,
sorry, I still hit the laughing button.
Yeah, we went to go to the Notre Dame football game.
Oh man, you did?
Saturday.
Yeah, I never get invited to those.
Well, the sad thing is we had a spare ticket, and
don't tell me that.
It was cooking hot.
Yeah, I bet.
And I don't know if I mean, the stadium is ancient. They did do a remodel.
I have a nephew that goes there.
Technically, it is still an ancient stadium, and I just remember like the guy in front of me. The rows are so tight. We were in the corner of the end zone, and the rows are so tight together, the bleacher seats. And there's not much room, like 16, go over 2 inches. There's a seat for 17, go over 2 more inches. There's a seat for 18.
One butt cheek, please.
Yeah, no kid. Alternate. Whose turn is it? It's like, oh, this is ridiculous. And then they're so tight together front to back. So you have to make a call. You either are crushing yourself up into a tiny ball in order so as not to, to sit down, because the person in front of you, their back is halfway into you, and the person behind you, their knees are into you. Or you're spooning the person in front of you.
Hey, down.
So I kind of opted to do the spoon approach and completely man spread around this rather generously proportioned individual.
You got to be on top or what?
Yeah. This dude was big enough that he had a shirt that listed all the championships Notre Dame had won, and it was on a single line. It was just like, holy crap, this dude is big.
Yeah.
And they will list them all off that way. No, but this guy was already like starting to sweat. That like I was watching like a formation of a map on his back. You could see it looked like, is that Asia? It was just like this big sweat stain on his back was just
this here, son, is where I'm from, right here.
Yeah, exactly. If you take this interstate over, but it was ridiculous. Everybody know.
How do we get home? Oh, you just take this strip, turn left at this strip,
God, it was so gross. But I mean, I'm like going, and you're just right up against this guy, and people needed to get through, and it's like there's not room to breathe, let alone like let somebody pass you, to get by. And so, I mean, it was a brutal game, meaning there was no competition. It was Notre Dame playing some unknown team.
So they could win.
So they chalk up another win. At halftime, they were already ahead by 50-something points.
Wow.
And it's like, so we're like, do we want to stay here in the heat? Do we still want to watch the rest of this game? Because there's no place for it to go. There's no way they're going to catch up. The opposing team scored 3 points that first half. So we watched the halftime game, the halftime show, and we were debating, do we want to stick around? And it's like, you know what? If we're going to leave, this is actually the best time to leave because the fewest number of people are in the stands. We could actually get out if we wanted to actually get out. So we did. We just called it and just walked away. It's sad because like here you are, you got this tickets to the game. The family's all together. My daughter had come down, for the holiday weekend. We were going to start off the Saturday with a good football game. It started at 3, and then it was like the game itself was a disaster. It was too hot. And then the thing is like, and this is what I can't figure out. And I'm just saying this because, I'm a fan of a lot of things, and I do get passionate about a lot of things. But to watch people, when your team is ahead by 50 points, still boo and wish that the umpires would die
Oh, man.
because they made a call that you didn't agree with. I'm like going, what's the point? Why are you upset? Because it's like, the other team, they got a call and you didn't like it, and that ump should be murdered. I was like, I want to find out where you live. And it was just like, wow, that's truly amazing. So, interesting just to people watch. And we're at the stadium. We're watching the players on the field, and I'm looking around. And there is a Jumbotron directly behind us. And I'm looking, and I would say a good 40%, maybe 50% of the people were watching the Jumbotron.
What's the point?
Like, it's like, go home.
Right. You got a bathroom close by, less crowd.
Your own drinks.
Yeah.
Air conditioning.
Kitchen. No parking problems,
It was so funny. So I'm looking, it's like, wait a minute. How is that possible?
It's like going to the movies and watching Netflix while you're in the theater.
Yeah. I'm just watching my tiny little screen. It's like you're in the moment, live in the moment.
Right.
So, yeah, it was. Like I said, we've gone to the games a few times before. We usually do like at least 1 or 2 of those football games a year.
My sister's kid goes there to Notre Dame.
Nice.
Yeah.
So it's expensive school. It's a very expensive school.
Yes, it is.
A beautiful campus. No, this is, let's pull this back to geekdom. Apparently, and I don't know how much of this is true, but having seen it, I can kind of see where this is coming into play. But, the School of Architecture at Notre Dame, one of the graduates from that school wound up working with Warner Brothers in the development of Hogwarts and the look of that for the movies.
Okay.
And there is a striking similarity between the buildings in the movie for Harry Potter and the campus of Notre Dame.
Huh.
And it's like, I don't think it's coincidental, but I don't know if
Right.
there's any true like, but
Now,
it's still interesting to see.
yeah. Now, speaking of magic, this magical episode 50, we have never talked about Harry Potter. Are you a Harry Potter fan? Have you read the books, seen the movies, lived the life?
Yeah, I've gone through the books. All, what is it? 7 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed the first few. The latter ones, it was kind of like, kind of. I don't know. Ultimately, it felt like, like how they made a reference to the fact that in Raiders of the Lost Ark, everything that Indiana Jones had done didn't make any difference.
Yeah.
All of his, like, he saved the Ark. Oh, they recaptured it. He saved, Marion, and she got, captured again. And they, all the things that he did, everything he tried, ultimately failed. It was, so I was like, okay, same thing felt true with the Harry Potter. Is like, he was this kid who was destined and all this stuff. He, and it was like, oh, so he's going to have this great reveal of his destiny. And it's like, oh, it turned out, and spoilers for now a couple decades old book, but it was like his mother's love is what protected him. And it's like, oh, so he didn't. And, it was just like so much of it kind of like reflected as if, yeah, Harry Potter didn't really do a whole lot. Hermione did most of it. Even Weasley wound up doing it quite a bit, but it was Harry Potter just kind of happened to be there. And I'm probably wrong. But
in ancient Samoan, Jehovah starts with an H.
Yeah. The quest for the Grail isn't simply archaeology. That's for blasphemy.
Blasphemy.
I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne. So
okay, well, I've never read the books. I've tried, and I never have. I've watched maybe the first 3 movies, but I don't know how it ends. I even tried the audio version of Harry Potter, and I just was not enjoying it. So I know why people love it, and I totally get it. I've never been able to sit down. Like, I think I just missed the boat by a few years, and a few, maybe I wasn't in the right frame of mind at the time. Just never, like, my middle child, number 3 son, he loves Harry Potter, and him and my wife would read them together, which was really cool. And that's kind of how I know of it, because they read it out loud and stuff. But I've never been able to get through the whole story. And I'm sorry that makes me less of a nerd. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try the comic book.
All things nerd.
Right, yeah. But I don't know. Someday I plan on giving it another try.
What worked, and I think just because of the fact that those books came out on a yearly basis, you had kind of time in between to kind of just like not necessarily forget or feel overwhelmed. It was just like, just take one story at a time. Don't think about any other ones. There were very loose connection between them. Ultimately, they did. The only real thread that connected them all was the main bad guy.
The dog's name was Indiana.
You were named after the dog? God dang, how many times have we watched this movie? We should just do an episode where we're doing nothing but rallying off quotes from The Last Crusade. Junior. Henry Jones Jr.
Yes. Have you seen the last Indiana Jones movie? Did you see that one?
I will never see that movie.
Okay, I haven't seen it either, but I will give it a chance.
Zero
I
interest.
still haven't seen The Flash. I haven't seen Spider-Verse 2. I'm way behind on my movies.
Yeah, I did like that one, I will say. And it felt, and zero spoilers, but it was a very good Empire Strikes Back aspect of it, where like the first movie, self-contained. If they made another movie, great. Just like A New Hope. Self-contained. If they made another movie, great. But then this one clearly set a path that they were going to have to follow up with another one. Just like Empire Strikes Back set a path that clearly they're going to have to make a third one. So it was good. I enjoyed it. I thought they did a fantastic job with just, the animation was good. My wife actually saw it with us. And truth be told, she said she got a headache.
I could see that the art when I first saw the first movie. When I saw the first movie, I thought of like the first 20 minutes. I had my head hurt for a little bit till it adjusted. It was just different and kind of visually 3D-ish and just kind of warp. Miles Morales.
A tremendous amount of just flashes and changing in style and bright garish colors, and so there's it was a lot for your eyes to digest.
The dog's name was Barry.
Now that's a great show. Have you ever seen Bill Hader's Barry? Oh, that just wrapped up. I haven't seen the last season. But
I did see Elemental. Elemental was the last movie I saw.
Pixar just lost its way.
I actually enjoyed that movie, though.
I knew that, to me, it was like, man, they've just rehashed the same concept of like, what would happen if, your emotions were personified?
Yeah.
What would happen if the elements were personified? What would happen if, and whatever.
Tomatoes and corn dated.
Yeah. It's a medley on your plate and the emotional story brought to you by Pixar.
I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, they are regurgitating the same things over and over again.
So, I mean, even like, I know it was technically a Disney movie, but that Zootopia, it's like, I enjoyed Zootopia. It was well scripted, but it was, again, what would happen if animals had their own society and were personified as humans? The one thing I think that bothers me the most is there is a monotonous quality to Pixar animation now. The novelty isn't there like it used to be. They've gone so solid with their technology. And they've made so many strides with all the different physics that they include, all the texture mapping that they include, all the splines that they make, all that stuff.
The hair.
Fantastic. But they just, like, when you watch a Pixar film, you just see an increase in doing the same art, the look of it and everything. But when you see that Spider-Verse, it's like, that's computer. But it has a very unique approach, a very different look. It's not like every other CG cartoon out there. Visually, it has its own feel. And I remember, like it or not, I remember now ages ago going to the licensing show in New York, and we came across the Universal booth, and they were promoting Madagascar through DreamWorks. And I looked at the animation from Madagascar, and everybody was kind of squared off. Everybody had and it was like, why is it kind of funky? I don't like it. In hindsight, it's like more cartoons should be, because that's the whole point of a cartoon. It's freedom to do whatever you want and make it as outlandish as you want. But Pixar just seems to like, we got to make this hyper realism. And that's what I loved about hand-drawn animation, like, the Glenn Keanes of the world, where they would exaggerate postures and so forth. It was outside of human proportions or whatever, but the characters had life and vitality. And now it just seems like it's so done, like everything's down to such a detail level that you kind of forget that these are supposed to be cartoon characters. They're just too realistic. Yeah. We're focusing more on making certain that the pores on the skin look natural than trying to get the animation to feel like there's some life there. Yeah. Like DreamWorks came out with a movie. I don't know how well it did. The Bad Guys, with like the big bad wolf, and there was a snake and a spider and a shark and all that.
Yeah, that was the first movie I took my little children to.
Oh yeah, so the animation style was great. It looked like there's a lot of like watercolor feel to it. There's a lot of like fluid. Everything about it was phenomenal. So like DreamWorks, to me, has surpassed what Pixar's doing. Pixar's just kind of set in their ways, and they really kind of lost their when John Lasseter got the boot, they lost the core of what made Pixar.
Yeah. Well, I'm similar. I mean, I enjoyed Elemental, but it wasn't on the level of like Up or Ratatouille. It just wasn't there, and I probably the last thing was Up that I enjoyed. Out of that. I'm tired of Toy Stories. I did enjoy the last Toy Story more than previous ones, but it's time to move on. I don't need to see any more Cars. I don't need to see any more Toy Stories. Don't be finding Dory's cousin's aunt. And,
yeah.
Let's one and done. I think works great for Pixar. I'm okay with 2, but let's just innovate and move on. To me, that's what Pixar was all about, was trying to get to the next level and then trying to get to the next level and telling a good story. But I think they've lost their way, and maybe that's Disney's fault. I don't know. I don't get into that politics of Disney and stuff. I could go on with Star Wars about that, but again, there's hit or miss on things I liked about Star Wars too, and not every James Bond movie is great. Not every
no.
So
some of them, I will say, the only thing that was good about Roger Moore's era was it made the character continue through the 70s, which was a very dark era for all movies. Cannonball 1 and 2. What was it? Smoking the Bandit 1, 2, and 3. Crap movies.
Right. So all crap movies, but I've seen each one of those that you just listed. So it's they were just ingrained in society, and TBS would show them late nights. It was just all over the place.
Yeah, things are bad when even acting legends like Clint Eastwood made Any Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way You Can. 2 movies with him paired up with a monkey. Yeah.
Clyde.
Oh, gosh.
This great is an orangutan.
Yeah, great actors. Terrible. He just had. And then,
did that bring you back to the movie? Is that what
it? Yeah, that. But it all culminated with the TV show BJ and the Bear. Because you think about it, that had everything. They threw a chimpanzee with a truck driver. So you got the 1970s movie Convoy,
right? Yeah.
And then they get Claude.
Here's the rubber duck.
They get Claude Akins to be Sheriff Lobo chasing our truck driver. So again, Smoking the Bandit. They basically said, what movies are so terrible but are so evocative of the 70s? Can we make that into a TV show? And it's like, dark days indeed.
Come on, it had the Fall Guy. Those were the same period of
That's
time,
the 80s, though. I think that's like early
Oh, yeah,
80s. We
you're
had
right.
just gotten out of,
Buck Rogers. Come on.
I've been seen with Farrah. That's still my favorite line of that Fall Guy theme
Hey.
song. Lee Majors busting on a tune.
They don't make quality TV like that anymore. What's this writer's strike for? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Maybe they'll go back and say, like, man, we've run out of new ideas. Let's go back to, a later era. And
classic 80s. Hey, Mike, this is about comic books. Yeah,
but at the same point, it's how did we get to comics? We got to comics because of living through some other eras.
Because the TV shows were bad. We started reading comic books.
Yeah, please let the sweet release of Sal Buscema's artwork. It's like anything to take my eyes off of hack actors and terrible movies. I still remember, and there was the dark days of the 70s even affected Superman comics, because that was a Superman comic I had no cover, so I have no idea what issue it was, but I remember reading the crap out of this issue where Superman was against a superpowered football team that had energized footballs to float and cage Superman within a force field that was set up by proximity with these footballs.
Wow.
Tell you, man, I don't know why that character is not used more often in current continuity.
I'm going to Google that later.
Yeah, it was a Kurt Swan era Superman comic, and I just remember it vividly. Superman fighting to get out of this force field that was made basically out of an assortment of 8 footballs that were making corners of this cube that blocked him in. And the coach going, "We've got you now, Superman."
I just saw a cover that said, "Who can beat Superman? More Supermen."
It's so good.
Genius.
Why not? That makes perfect sense to me.
And I'm going to bring this around to our comic book of the day. What we're talking about from DC Comics. And creator of Bone, Jeff Smith, and the work that he has done. Copyright 2007, Shazam, The Monster Society of Evil. 4-book series. Colored by Steve Hamaker. Written and drawn by Jeff Smith. Shazam! I've always wondered, I've seen the fight a few times, but Shazam versus Superman, who wins? Mm-hmm. Like Kingdom Come Superman? Kingdom Come Shazam?
The Kingdom Come one, or like when they were at the...
the Treasury editions had 2 of those battles.
Yeah, I don't know. I always looked at it as Captain Marvel would win, but it wouldn't be an easy win, because the thing is that whenever there's ever been a conflict, everybody kind of forgets that Superman's got range. Not just like he's got a range of powers, a variety of powers. It's like he can heat vision, cold breath, and be well outside of Shazam's reach.
But Shazam, Captain Marvel's magical, and Superman is vulnerable to magic. Well, isn't everybody vulnerable to magic technically? I mean, he's not more vulnerable to magic. He's just as vulnerable as everybody else.
Yeah, but in my heart, I would say that Captain Marvel would win.
Shazam. Producer Tony's actually more of a Shazam Captain Marvel fan than I am, but I always thought they loaned him the power, and since they are gods, they had an infinite amount, and so they loan just a sliver of power to Zeus's wisdom and whatever, Solomon's gold, money. I don't know.
Yeah. So Solomon's wisdom, Hercules was the strength, Zeus was just power, whatever that means. No idea.
It's the
Atlas'
lightning.
stamina, Achilles' courage, which I'm not really familiar with his story of Achilles. That courage would be what I would associate with it. I would say his invulnerability, except for the Achilles heel. Nothing could harm him. That would make more sense, but that's not here nor there. And Mercury was speed.
Yeah.
Not to go all Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the other. But for the most part, all these were from Greek myth. Mercury, Zeus, Atlas,
Achilles. Yeah.
Hercules or Heracles. Solomon is not.
Right. They needed an S, and they couldn't think of a Greek god that had an S. Now, I've read other versions of Captain Marvel, the Jerry Ordway Captain Marvel from the 90s.
Yeah, Power of Shazam or something.
Power of Shazam is excellent. Like, the art was great, the story's great. I'm trying to get all of them. I'm pretty close, and then I'll do a full read through. But great ideas. Wasn't too campy, but didn't take itself too seriously. Well, I mean, it was a little serious, but a great version. Earlier versions, there's an old Justice League of America that had a Crisis on Earth S, which is where the Shazam people were originally.
Should still be
Shazam. And so, I was familiar as a kid with them, thought they were cool. The All-Star Squadron included Shazam or Captain Marvel in later issues. Those were probably, the Justice League and the All-Star Squadron were probably my first appearances, familiarity with them. I always thought they were cool characters, but there was always other characters I liked better. So reading this now was interesting. My feelings towards the book, I wasn't sure what to expect because I hadn't read it before. I've owned this trade. Actually, I got the hardcover with an introduction by Alex Ross, and I bought this. I think I bought it at Ollie's a while ago. Finally read it for the podcast, and I like this version a lot. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I liked it. There's still some stuff that I wasn't 100% on board with, but I knew it was like 4 issues, and you got to cram stuff into 4 issues.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yep, and he did. He crammed a lot in there.
He did.
My introduction to the character was through the 1970s Filmation. I had no idea who Shazam Captain Marvel was. And I just remember the Shazam ISIS Power Hour. And
is that where they were like in an RV in the desert all the time?
Yeah, with Mentor, and they just drive around the California coast and hope for the best for whatever adventure was going to entail. Like somebody was caught jaywalking. Oh my gosh, call in Captain Marvel.
Shazam! Excuse me, miss.
Yeah. And, I lived for the moments when he would talk to the elders in that show. And that was somewhat animated because Billy Batson would be in this nebulous void with, the Vicks vapors floating around him. And these, Hercules or Zeus would tell him like, oh, this is the moral of the story for you today. Learn this lesson well, Billy. And sure enough, something would happen. It's like, oh, thanks for giving me that heads up, Zeus, or whatever. And you're like, okay, cool. But it was
I have no memory of that show, and I know I've watched it.
I didn't realize that they had switched actors for Captain Marvel during that show. Apparently, there was some sort of conflict. Found out years later, what was going down, but yeah, I think his guy's name was like Jackson Bostwick or something like that. Seems about right. But yeah, he was the Captain Marvel Shazam of that. So yeah, that was how I got introduced to the character. And I think we had a Treasury Edition version of like Whiz Comics #1, where they reprinted his like first appearances, like that Fabulous First or something like that they had done a series of, and that was pretty good too. So those were my introductions to him. I loved the quirkiness that this character had to him. And, obviously much, much later, I came across like more of the backstory with this character. And, the Uncle Dudleys, which were not in this book. And I say Dudleys because there was, you basically had a whole like legion of uncles, so to speak, that became Captain Marvels. And there was no Freddie Freeman in this one.
Just Mary.
Yeah, it was just Mary. And I kind of preferred that. I mean, that's why like some of the stuff had to go to the sidelines because this was a 4-issue series. So it's like I can't introduce everything, but I'll give you a hint of the stuff. I did like, some of the references to the, Monster Society of Evil and some of the classic characters like the, Alligator Men and
Talking Tawny,
yeah. And for the life of me, I do not remember him transforming into a full human. He usually wore a suit with it. It was like a dude with a tiger's head.
Yeah.
It was like an anthropomorphic tiger.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he did. I think that's just a Jeff Smith
interpretation. So, and I liked this character a lot. In fact, I kind of loosely based the concept of one of my favorite DC Heroes role-playing game characters off of this concept of the ultimate wish fulfillment. It's like they introduced Robin to comics so that a younger reader could see themselves alongside Batman, fighting alongside. It's like, oh, there's Batman, and I could be Robin. And, but this was like, I'm a kid. I can't be Superman. I can't be Batman. But in this one, I could say a magic word, which is very capable of doing that. And all of a sudden I'm a full grown adult with all these powers. So I'm not fighting alongside. I am the hero. So it's the ultimate wish fulfillment. And it was like, I can see why, back in the day, this series outsold Superman. There's more going on than what Superman has to offer. There's more side characters. There's more, you even think about like what survived in the UK ultimately wound up with Miracle Man / Marvel Man, because that was like Captain Marvel was brought over and they lost the license. So they just kind of said, well, we'll just keep telling our stories, but instead of it being Captain Marvel, we'll just change the name to Marvel Man.
Right.
And they just kept going. They changed the hair color to yellow instead of black, and they just kept going. But they didn't, Superman didn't make it over there. It didn't continue, but Marvel Man did. And, and Captain Marvel in that form did. And it's like, yeah, this is just shows that there's a deeper character here if allowed to be what it's supposed to be,
Yeah.
And I never liked putting Captain Marvel in the same universe with Superman.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And it felt weird because it's like, I never saw the similarities, thus the lawsuit. It's like, they're ripping us off. And it's like, no, I never saw that. I just saw it as another superhero But the backstories were so different. The powers set was different. Like, where did the powers come from? How did, it's like Superman wasn't a kid transformed, and they both could fly. They both had black hair. They had emblems on their chest. And that's kind of, strong. But the reason why Superman was strong was completely different than the reason why Shazam or Captain Marvel was strong. And so I just preferred Captain Marvel. Like you said, there's Mary Marvel, and, it's like, oh, you had a sister, and she didn't age like Captain Marvel did. And then, Freddie Freeman was, long before there was a push for diversity, he was, a kid with, he was in crutches. And, it's like, again, a wish fulfillment, moment of like, I've gotten rid of it and to such a degree that I am now a super being. I was like, man, this is great. Weird villains, the crocodile-headed creatures, to a worm, to the villains like Lex Luthor looked like a regular character, regular human, just bald. But, Dr. Savannah was that buck tooth, big glasses, giant head. And it's like, man, this is great. And then he had his own version of the characters. I think he had a daughter and a son. And they both were kind of like Savannah Juniors, like how Mary Marvel and Captain Marvel Jr. were. And I was like, And I know that, for legal reasons, they've referred to him as Shazam, but she's still called Mary Marvel, right? In the comics?
Yeah, yep.
And then what's Freddie Freeman's character's name? Is he Shazam Jr. now, or is he Captain Marvel Jr.?
I think he's just Captain, I think he's Shazam Jr. now, but I'm not positive. And really, I think Billy just is called the Captain in current comics. So I don't know. It's different, depends on the writer or what the current, because of the movie and all that stuff. I'm sure that they're going to stick with the Shazam title over anything else now. But
if I remember right, there was something about the lawsuit that they had, or the arrangement, because when Marvel snagged up the name when it came up for grabs, they grabbed it. But I think DC was able to still call him Captain Marvel. They just couldn't call him Captain Marvel on the cover.
Right, yeah. They couldn't name the title.
Confused.
Yeah.
But that's why, when DC re-released, well, not re-released, but when they did their own, Captain, he's returned, it was Shazam was on the cover.
I know you've read Bone. Did you enjoy Bone?
I did, but it suffered through somewhat similar to Harry Potter that we talked about earlier, where it was lighthearted to start, and Harry Potter was very much a very young kid's book to start, and kind of like things were kind of lighthearted and the stakes were not high. Bone was that way. The first few, maybe like the first 20 issues were very lighthearted, the great cow race and all this other stuff. Yeah. But then the later issues, it was pretty dark. People dying left and right. And the same thing with Harry Potter. It got really dark towards the last few. But at that point, you're so invested. You're like, well, it makes sense in the story's way. But at the same point, it's like, wow, that, when you read it all quickly, it's like, that got dark quick.
Bone was one of the first series that I read through with my older children, when they were younger. I got them to read that together, and it got super dark. Probably the third or fourth trade, it's like, oh, this is turning into something not only deeper, but it's now there's people dying, and there's this evil coming across. It's not just them lost in this, new world or whatever, but I enjoyed it, and I could see, like, I almost think this Shazam was written for a scholastic mindset. He kept it simple. It was family oriented. There was nothing risque or anything that you wouldn't want your kids to read.
There's
Even
one implied moment that kind of caught me when I reread it. It's like, whoa. When the news anchor says, "Oh, I can see why they call you Captain Marvel."
yes, and they show her looking down at his Marvel package, his marvelous package. So yeah, okay. There's one panel.
Yeah.
But if you're reading that and you're 8, I don't think you're gonna understand that. Well, okay, maybe 8. Yeah. My 5-year-old probably won't know, but childlike. Even the characters, the way he draws is very childlike. But there was a lot I wasn't expecting in this, like the kaiju size Shazam.
Yeah.
That was great. I was enjoying the big battle. Mr. Mind. Not to spoil it, he was in earlier versions. He's a worm. In this one, he was a snake, which, I mean, kind of makes more sense. But I kind of missed the worm.
Yeah, especially with the glasses.
Yeah,
and the little speaker box. So this one had the headphones. It was a little bit more updated, but yeah, there's something about that weird caterpillar-ish kind of lumpy body, but it's like the threat level goes completely away when you realize it is, when it's a snake, there's still threat.
Yeah,
but when it's
caterpillar. So I mean, if I was to pick out anything that Jeff Smith made a mistake on, I think it was Mr. Mind. Just his look, but it was really cool. He'd send giant kaiju robots that were controlled by the bugs of New York, and that's genius. That's great. I wasn't expecting it. I'm not sure where he pulled that from, but like if there's an earlier story where the bugs and Mr. Mind would get together, but cockroaches and all that stuff from New York was controlling it. But because of Billy saved one cockroach back, in the story earlier, it changes its mind about him. And,
it's just
bad. Right. Just very well done. I don't want to go page by page, but, the kaiju part was great. I enjoyed the transforming Talkie-Tawny. I thought that gave him more depth and kind of like a genie type quality to him, or some sort of spirit animal. Was kind of cool. Of course, the art was gorgeous. Some of the Mary Marvel and Billy depiction looked weird to me, but then I got used to it. Is this just some of it was because I know that drawing children is very hard. And John Byrne's the worst of that. I think, he can't draw children at all. It's just a style. Like Jeff Smith has a style, and it fits well with the style of it. But something about Mary me crazy, and I haven't been able to pinpoint it yet. At least there's
something about Mary.
Something about Mary. Yeah. Ben Stiller's not an appearance.
One of his earlier movies,
right? But I love the creatures, and a lot of the dialogue was pretty great. A really enjoyable book. The look of the big robot monsters was unusual, but it worked. And I didn't know I was going to enjoy this as much as I did. I know our older audience, wants us to talk about older books, but this one, I'd say give it a shot to those older gentlemen.
I mean, for those older ones, it still has enough in there. It definitely pays homage to, the bygone era of comics in many ways, but then there's a lot of new, fresh takes on the character. So, and what's nice is that you really do not need to know anything about Captain Marvel in order to have picked this book up and started reading. There is a massive tome. If you go back to like the C.C. Beck era of the Monster Society of Evil, there's a big story arc, and I'm almost thinking it's one of the first superhero books that had a legitimate story arc, continuing stories from issue to issue that went on for quite a while. Was that Monster Society of Evil? Yeah, I think Jeff Smith's art works well for this character. Has that nice balance between cartoon and more traditional superhero comics. And this character is that balance between cartoon and more traditional superheroes. I love Jerry Ordway. I had a really good conversations with him back in the day. He helped us do some packaging artwork, and met him a couple times at conventions and so forth. Super, super nice guy. His art's fantastic, but he's also very solid as far as illustration goes. And it kind of lacks that cartoon feel, so that when you have a Talking Tawny, if you have some of these other characters, it just doesn't seem like it resonates, like it doesn't seem as plausible.
Yeah.
But when things are in cartoon look and aesthetic, you can get away with a lot more. Kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the Pixars, when you can get away with more outrageous stories. And I was glad that there was no mention of some of the other, like, there was no hint of a sequel. This is a very, very self-contained story.
Yeah.
Obviously they do reference like, hey, we can have ongoing adventures, but there's no, like, I left these doors open,
right.
For
Black Adam's around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. The post-credit scenes, if you would. And it's like,
Nope.
So, I always loved Captain Marvel. His costume was the greatest. He had a rope to hold his cape in place. He didn't have the long cape like Batman and Superman did. He had, that little flap, which unfortunately converted into a hood.
Yeah. Well, don't even get me started on his current look.
Yeah, it just gets worse. I loved those like weird wristband things he had, because like even at the end of the wristbands, he had that little like extra half circle. He didn't wear the underwear on the outside. That was never one of his appearance. It was just, he had a very distinct look, and all of his stuff had a very, and that's why when you had mentioned Earth S, I was like, that's where he needs to be. Don't mix him in with the other continuities. Don't try to put him in and say like, oh, Fawcett City's just down the road from Gotham. And
right.
It's like, oh.
Yeah, he's really a self-contained character, and his family and set of villains, none of them fit in the DC universe.
No.
You can have crossovers or whatever. I don't care. And if it's a good story, great. But he really deserves his own world and kind of unique feel to it. He shouldn't have ever been merged in with everybody else. Now he's just one other hero, where on Earth S, he was the big cheese. He was Captain Marvel and
the big red cheese.
And the big red cheese. And, he wasn't competing against Superman. Like, this just, it watered, again, DC waters down all their characters so that they're all alike and all sound the same. And there's 12 versions. Now he's just another version of Superman. But he should be his original big red cheese self. It's a little odd. The Monster Society of Evil is odd. You could try to do that with some Superman villains, but it's just kind of cool to be on his own and have his own story. Then you don't have to explain why his gods and Wonder Woman's gods are, merged and mixed, and, the Wizard is pretty cool, and I love every version of the Wizard. Yeah, I agree. He should be on his own. I almost wish someone else would buy him and just, do their own thing.
Yeah. Well, that leads to another question. What are your thoughts on the whole lawsuit and then subsequent acquisition of the character?
Yeah. Well, I mean, DC was desperate at the time because he was outselling, or he did earlier, eventually in the 70s, DC leased him out, and then eventually got him in the 80s. The lawsuit, I mean, sure, there's similarities, and if I read enough early Captain Marvel issues, maybe there's a lot of similarities. I'm not sure. I haven't read a lot of those early ones, but I don't think so. I don't think there is, from what I've seen. And certainly the art style and the pupils and, just, it was its own unique thing. The only similarities is he can fly, he has a cape, and he's strong. But that's pretty much where it ends. Just like any other superhero character, you can find similarities to all of them, especially nowadays. But back then, I understand why DC did it. They're just protecting and being greedy, but I don't buy it. I think, I think the lawsuits was probably just to show that, DC's the big wig and you don't mess with them. And, I think it was more pondering or standing up to the little guy kind of thing than anything else.
The lawsuit, it was a lawsuit, but my beef was kind of like, we'll not take the character, thank you. It's like, if you thought he was so much of a clone of your character, why are you producing that character? Why re-release him? I mean, I appreciate they did, because then, we got some other, the Don Newton era and some of these other runs with Captain Marvel. And like I said, the 1970s show that introduced me to the character. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that comes up, and, like I said, with the Roger Moore Bond, terrible movies, but kept Bond in, theaters so that, better movies could come along with better actors after them.
Right.
So, there is some things that it makes sense that it's like, well, I'm glad they did keep this character from just fading into oblivion. You think about a lot of those golden age superheroes. A lot of them were drawing in crowds, but they just completely vanished. I know Archie keeps trying to bring them back around, but the whole Mighty Crusaders, there's a lot of those characters, but you don't remember them. But if it weren't for DC, being jerks and we sued your pants off, and in doing so, we're just going to take your character and now use it again after X number of years and make our own stuff with it. But yeah, I agree. It'd be kind of nice if they just left him in his own, universe and just kind of said, well, cross over when you need to cross over.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to see the mythos expanded and, just a whole line of Shazam, Rogues Gallery, just, you don't have to always do the same Dr. Savannah, Black Adam, Mr. Mind. Yeah. They could always be, they're Lex Luthors of the universe, but, you could do a lot with those Fawcett characters, and other people have tried to do that stuff too, but I'd love to see it just in its own universe, like Invincible, just go and see what you could do. I wouldn't want it to get too serious though, like Miracle Man or whatever, but I think
that got dark.
Yeah.
Alan Moore especially.
Yeah.
Did you read much of Alan Moore.
When it first came out, my brother was getting it, and I would read those when he wasn't looking. I read at least the first 7, 8 issues, and it got really dark really fast. I enjoyed them. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I was younger and had lots of books to read, so those were just some I read. But what I read was fine, but I had no attachment and didn't know the history. It was the first time I ever saw Miracle Man or knew of it, and had no clue about any backstory on it. So I wasn't judging it based on anything else.
Yeah, I got them well later, long after they had, been produced. I did wind up getting, I think, the Alan Moore's run. I stopped as soon as Alan Moore was done, because it's like, I don't know who this Neil Gaiman person is.
Right. What a hack.
Yeah, I don't think he's got any talent. He's not going to go anywhere.
You never heard of him again.
He fit into oblivion. No, but I mean, like, I enjoyed what Alan Moore had done. It kind of made sense, like, what would happen, with these characters, especially as a reflection of current society. But I will say the most controversial issue, it still holds up as being the most controversial issue.
And what was the controversy on it?
It was the birth, and it was. Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the birth.
So if you know, you know.
See, that's all you had to say, and I was suddenly taken back to, me being 13 or 12, reading the birth.
I think and again, this comic's about, 40 years old? So spoilers. But sorry, Coach Vic, spoiler alerts. Here we go. The fact that the Freddie Freeman Captain Marvel Jr. character basically said, why would I ever go back?
Right.
And just stayed in his superhero form the entire time. And that was brilliant.
Right. That's what I would do. Why would I go back to being human?
Yeah. If I got all this power. And I think Jeff Smith hinted at it, which I thought was, interesting. It's like, when was the last time you let that boy out to breathe?
Right, yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, Billy. Whoop.
And Alex Ross played with it in Kingdom Come, So a couple of people have had that aspect of time and, replacing the person with a hero and back again. So,
but this book, this Captain Marvel, I mean, if you've never read a Captain Marvel book, read this one. I think this would be an excellent primer. And I'm glad that there was zero. I shouldn't say zero. There was an ever so slight nod to DC, but by the nod in particular, it showed that it wasn't part of the DC. And that was when Captain Marvel gets the hot dog and then walks away. It's like, oh, what are you going to do? Find a phone booth and change or something like that? And it's like, so how would a hot dog vendor know that Superman changes his costume in a phone booth? Unless it was a comic that he was reading about that. And it's like, okay, so just kind of like definitely not part of the same continuity.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you that this should be a primer, just like John Byrne's Man of Steel, George Perez's Wonder Woman issue 1. If you want to know the character and don't need the baggage, this should be, here's what the character's about. It's the foundation of like those kind of books that I think DC should focus on. Here's the basic character, the archetype, and go from there. Like, it's just, they lose it after a while and try to change the character up. But, this is what everybody goes back to and says it's, this is the good stuff. This is the character I like. And it's always, back to those basic origins. This one even more so than Jerry Ordway's. I think it's a prime example of here's what you can do with the character, and here's all you need to know. They should have printed this and given you a ticket to Shazam. And here's the character. Not that I'm comparing the two, because the book was a whole lot better than any of the movies, but
True enough.
the wizard and the sins and basic origin. That's it. Take it from there.
As much as the X-Men are incredibly popular and there's something dramatically lost, when their origin is they were born as a mutant. And you're like, oh, yeah, I guess that's your origin story, huh? Yep.
Right.
Yep. Just I had laser shooting out of my eyes, came out of the womb, zap, zap, zap.
Puberty, boom.
Yeah, and you're just like, well, okay. But, I mean, what an amazing and ridiculous origin. It's like, follows some stranger into a subway.
Yeah, who looked like his dad.
Yeah, transports him down into some unknown place, sees all these statues in a dark corridor. There is a old man sitting in a stone throne and a giant block precariously hung over his head.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the setup? Where is this coming from?
Right.
What is going on? And then it's like, I'll give you powers of all these people. Just say this word. Okay. And then the moment he does, the block drops and does the old man in.
I always thought that was kind of like symbolic passing the torch. But then, I figure, well, what's the point of that? The wizard comes back and advises anyway. I'm trying to think, is this the Force moment? The Yoda moves on, but you can still talk to the Force ghost. When Obi-Wan as a ghost gets tired and sits on a log, it's, what is that? What's the point of that? If I can still get tired.
Yeah. Al Guinness going like, yep, here's another paycheck coming my way. Here's another. Hold on. Whew, I think I threw my ghost spine out. I need a little.
I'm beat.
Shiatsu by the other Force ghost.
Yeah.
It was a little weird. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that, is it the Rock of Eternity that there is the quote unquote headquarters? Is at the dawn of time. And so technically that would put him so far back in the past that he was still alive at that point. But I think he's also confined to that location.
So if you have questions about Shazam, the Monster Society of Evil, or you can tell us why the rock slammed on the wizard, please email us at andthisiswhyilovecomics@gmail.com. Our webpage is andthisiswhyilovecomics.podcast.buzzsprout.com. We're on the Twitter andthisiswhil1. I'm sorry, the X, not the Twitter. We're on Facebook, and This Is Why I Love Comics Podcast. We're on the TikTok. The link will be in the show notes. You can support the show either on Buzzsprout, the support tab, or become a Patreon member and listen to all kinds of backstory, other conversations,
Some
things,
unsavory moments
or things we were embarrassed to have on the original feed. We're not embarrassed if it's after a paywall. So you know
what you're getting into.
Yeah, that's what you're getting into there.
Yeah, Andy's OnlyFans page. Yeah.
That's right. Thanks to all our supporters and friends of the show that have done that. Thanks to producer Tony, co-host Matt 1.0, or was it 2.0? I don't know. Which one was Matt? Oh, anyway, Matt 10.0, Kevin, Jamie, producer Tony. Did I say that? I don't know. But thanks again. And of course, thanks for Thunder Chicken for letting us use their music. They're going to continue to let us use their music in season 3. So thank you very much. Go check them out on Spotify. The link is in the show notes. On the Thunder Chicken, lightning, thunder,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if you say their name loud enough, do you get the enhanced powers of a chicken?
Probably it would be like, like Lionel saying "Thunder, thunder."
Thunder chicken.
Oh yeah, and then big old chicken lights up the sky. Big rooster call. I think we're onto something there.
Walk, walk beyond walk, walk.
Thunder chicken are on the loose.
It's a New England red. Grizzly Adams. Did you ever sit through a single episode of Father Murphy?